Alright, hello everyone. I'm back to talking about Donkey Kong Bonanza again. And this time I'm not going to be going over the main story and all that again. No, no, no. This time I'm going to be talking about the DLC for this game, that being DK Island and Emerald Rush. So, yeah, and if this needs to be said, spoilers ahead for the DLC, I guess. So go ahead and click away if you don't want to be spoiled or something. Alright, spoiler warning's over, although it doesn't really matter since well anyway, let's go over the let's go over the DLC. I'll explain along and all that. So this DLC doesn't really change the story that much. I mean, there is new lore that is added to the game, but it doesn't, and story elements and all that, but it doesn't really. There's not really anything new in terms of story and lore. Um, so yeah, let's go ahead and go over that. So the DLC, the Donkey Kong Bonanza DLC, this DLC, DK Island and Emerald Rush, this takes place after you beat the main story and before you get the true ending of the game, where Donkey Kong and Pauline go back to the surface, where Donkey Kong and the inhabitants of the underground world watch Pauline perform her new song. Well, I mean that's what you would get if you completed the base game 100%. But I mean if you didn't, then you anyway. This DLC takes place in between those events. Takes place in between after completing the main story, but before you get the true ending of the story or of this story. So so the duo are informed that Void is on Donkey Kong's home island, that being DK Island, which we don't really know much about. I mean, the only literally the only clue I can remember of this island being hinted at is at the beginning of the game where it said far off the shores of DK Island, which you know okay you know I don't know what this is, but DK Island previously DK Island didn't really exist in the base game. Like, I mean, it was kind of non-important to the story. So, I don't really know why I included that. I mean, at first I thought that was far off the shore. At first I thought they meant to put far off the shores of Donkey Kong's home island. Like, I thought that was a mistake, but no. The island that Donkey Kong is from is literally called DK Island. So but yeah, now that Donkey Kong has brought Pauline to his home island, now they both know where each other lives. So Donkey Kong is from DK Island and Pauline is from New Donk City, and both of them have now traveled to their homes, where they live and all that. So that's kind of a neat detail and nothing new. I mean, you can explore DK Island, but there's no new Bananium gems. There's no new fossils for you to collect. There's nothing like that you can find on there. Which, I mean, is understandable because, I mean, all of the Bananium gems and fossils are underground, and DK Island, you're currently exploring the surface, so it wouldn't make sense for you to find any Banandium gems or fossils on the surface. Although not although the gold roots from the Banandium root are popping up on DK Island, so I can understand why people would feel the frustration of not finding anything new. But yeah, so anyway, we see that Void is still we see that Void has returned after getting punched by K. Rool and getting set free by Grumpy and Poppy, which you would know happened if you talked to them in the Forbidden Layer. I mean, a lot of people probably thought that Void died, but no, Void is still alive. And we see that he has changed his ways. Like he's not going after the Banandium root anymore, since he's leaving that to K. Rool. Actually, should we tell him that K. Rool is dead now? But he's not taking children for his own benefit. He's not doing that stuff anymore, but we can see that he hasn't completely changed. That old Void Kong is still inside of him. So he's not going after the Banandium root anymore, but instead he has discovered a new unripened form of Banandium gold, and its composition is that of emerald. So he's calling it emerald ore. And there's some energy inside of that, which could help him get his company back on top, as well as him being able to leave DK Island, since he's not able to move anymore. Since he's not able to move his base of operations anymore, so he's just stuck on there. So Void asks Donkey Kong to work for him to collect all of the emerald ore that's all over the place. Although you're kind of just forced to do it, since since the game doesn't let you have a choice, you kind of have to do it. But yeah, Donkey Kong working for the Void Company is canon now, everyone. Who would have thought the protagonist would, work for the previous antagonist? Because, I mean, at the beginning of the game, Void is the antagonist of the game, and now after you beat the main story, you can now work for him. It's kind of strange, I mean, okay. I'm getting off track here. So yeah, and this is the Emerald Rush, where you go and collect as much emerald ore as you can. However, when you begin the Emerald Rush, there are some things that are taken away from you for game balance purposes. So before you start an Emerald Rush, Void has Donkey Kong put on an official Void Co. helmet. But the downside of wearing the helmet is that any skills you've obtained along the way, such as health upgrades, punching strength, all those skills are stripped from you. Well, temporarily. It's only stripped from you until you finish the Emerald Rush. After that, all your skills will be returned. However, you are able to obtain the skills that were taken from you during the Emerald Rush by collecting fossils and Banandium gems, which are emeralds now. And then there are some perks you can pick up along the way, and after the Emerald Rush is completed, the amount of Emerald ore you've collected, you will get rating points, and the more rating points you have, the more rewards you can unlock, such as being able to play Emerald Rush in different layers, or getting new outfits for Donkey Kong and Pauline. After a while, Void is able to collect enough Emerald ore, which he can use to power up the dirt pile he has, and it will be able to leave DK Island. But Grumpy and Poppy saw this coming, which so Void wants to sell all his ore and make a fortune, but Grumpy broke a part of the machine, and so now Void is stuck on DK Island. So it doesn't matter how much Emerald ore he has, he can't move. He's not able to move, no matter how much fuel he has, if that one component is broken. So everyone on DK Island, it will be prepared in case Void does anything suspicious again. And that is basically the story of DLC. We don't really get anything new in terms of story, which, I mean, if they did add new story elements in between the events of finishing the main story, but before the true ending of the story, it would overcomplicate things a little. So I can understand the limitations of this. I can see why people dislike this, but you know, for what it's worth, it's all right to me. And best of all, you remember the credits that play after you finish the main story, and after you and before you get the true ending of the story. Well, you're able to interact with the credits now. Yeah, that's that's something you weren't able to do before. So now you can actually do something with the credits instead of just, you know, sitting there and waiting for them to end. I mean, okay, granted, you can during the previously with the credits, you can dive and break, but that you can't really do anything with that. You can't break any terrain. You can't collect any gold. You can't do anything. You can't do anything useful during the credits previously. But with the Emerald Rush being applied to the DLC credits, you're able to do something like that. So now to give my final thoughts on this, you know, I thought this DLC was good. You know, I can understand people's frustration with this and them saying that this costs too much money or this should have been free. Well, to that I say, video games cost money. You know, making video games costs money. Every detail that you see in the DLC for this game, each chunk of terrain, costs money, you know. So you know, I can understand not trying to find anything new in terms of collectibles for DK Island and all that. I can understand the frustration of not collecting anything new, but for what it's worth, I think this DLC is worth buying, you know. Since I'm willing to play anything that is Donkey Kong Bonanza related. So, you know, and you know, the Emerald Rush was good too. Trying to get as much Emerald ore as quick as possible, as well as collecting, as well as being able to obtain the skills you collected or obtain the skills you lost and get them back during the Emerald Rush and being able to use them again, and the perks you collect along the way. That's good. I think Emerald Rush is a good thing. And what and any of the the locations of the Bananium gems and the fossils don't change. So you're able to use that to your advantage. So, people might say that's a bad thing. They probably want the locations to switch every time you replay Emerald Rush. Oh yeah, and then that's another thing too. After you complete every Emerald Rush, your skills reset with each new run. And I think, that's a good thing. Game balance purposes, you don't want to be overpowered when you start a new Emerald Rush. I can see people seeing that as a bad thing again, but I think this DLC was good. I don't care what anyone says. If you say this DLC is bad, then you need to rethink your way of thinking, because I just I don't see anything wrong with the DLC. Like, I know nothing new comes from it. I mean, you can get new statues that you can place on DK Island by spending Bananza. Yeah, that's another thing I forgot too. And of course, those statues don't really change the story. But, you can collect those, but okay, I've dragged this on way too long. So I thought the DLC was good. There are a few there are a few things that I think could have been better, such as well, actually, you know what? Now that I'm feeling, no, I don't see anything wrong with the DLC. For what it's worth, I think it's all right. It's completely fine. I think it's all right. So, you know what? I give the DLC a 10 out of 10. So, and if you're combining this with the main game, then I guess if you're combining this with the main game, then I guess, or I mean, if you're shoving this in with the main game as well, then that would be a whole different rating. But you know what? For the DLC itself, I give it a 10 out of 10. I would recommend playing it. If you haven't played it yet, then just go ahead and play it. So yeah, that's my review for the Donkey Kong Bonanza DLC, DK Island, and Emerald Rush. So go ahead and like this video if you liked my review on this. Share this video with others that you know, and spread the word and all that. And of course, subscribe if you want to see future reviews like this. I normally don't review DLC, but I'm willing to talk about anything that's Donkey Kong Bonanza related. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye.